Welcome back, my fun, funky, fresh people. It's been a very long time. There's been a lot of stuff going on at our house. I know I really should have taken advantage of this lack of school, but we've just really had a crazy, crazy time. My family and I, it's just been a lot of stuff has been happening. But you know what's been happening? It's 2020, and now 2020 is basically over. By the time you're watching this, 2020 probably is over. It's 2021. Hooray! The year-end lists have all dropped, except for Spectrum Pulses. By the time I'm recording this, he hasn't dropped his yet. But everybody's done their best albums of 2020, except for me. And I've been sitting with these albums. I've been listening to them a lot, listening to a lot of music lately in preparation for this list. I'm going to kick it off with some honorable mentions. There's a bunch of honorable mentions because I think 2020 was a really great year for music. Really, really great. We'll see how the rest of the decade pans out, but man, 2020 might be hard to beat. There was some really amazing stuff here. But let's just hop right into the honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is Rough and Rowdy Ways by Bob Dylan. This was a really, really great album. I do think it is a little long-winded, which is its weakness, but I think the actual songwriting, the actual lyrics, the actual music, I think everything about it really is great. It's just too long. Some of the songs just drag and drag. But besides that, the album was trimmed down, could totally be a contender for even album of the year. It was some really, really amazing stuff. Please don't skip over this album just because Fantano gave it a bad score. Don't miss this. Man Alive by King Cruel. I've never been a King Cruel fan until now. I still am not a King Cruel fan. I don't really like the oohs or the ahs, but this is a really crazy album. This is a really cool album. It's a very specific vibe. It's a very dark vibe, very fitting for 2020, and it's very interesting. I highly recommend it. Then you have albums like Unlocked by Denzel Curry, a really, really short but sweet rap album that is low on substance but extremely high on style, and it just brings it in that department. It's a lot of fun. Then you have Miles by Blue and I can't remember the name of the artist. That's terrible. But Fantano gave this a 9. It's a really great rap album. Once again, it's too long, and it's not the most fun listen, I would say, but it still has, it's still a really, really great album. One of the best rap albums of the year, easily. Then you have Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs. Speaking of amazing rap albums, this is one of the best rap albums of the year. My favorite Freddie Gibbs project. Really great. It's not, I lied. What am I saying? Pinata's my favorite. We'll get to my best albums of 2014 video later, but I love Pinata. It's awesome. Then Folklore by Taylor Swift. This is my favorite Taylor Swift album. She pulled a Lana Del Rey and did a singer-songwriter record instead of a pop record, and it's really great. It's really amazing. And then you have Strange Times by Gorillaz. It was great. Some of the best songs of the year. Not very cohesive as an album, which is my complaint for it, but I do think the individual songs are great. That was a lot. That was a mouthful. Let's get into the top 10 best albums of 2020. I'm so excited. RTJ 4. It's not the best RTJ, and it's certainly not the worst RTJ. I honestly, if I had to rank this album and RTJ 3, I do not know how I would rank them. I think this album is a lot more culturally relevant than RTJ 3. This album just was so timely. It came out really as the world started burning with the murder of George Floyd and everybody getting angry. It dropped like right around that time, and it was a little bit too timely. Songs like Walking in the Snow, which a bunch of people are shouting out in their best of the year song list, as they should. It's a fantastic song, but it's a really great album. Just a lot of really great standout moments and songs on this thing, and just don't miss it. It's really great. Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers, another huge fan favorite album of 2020, both fan and critic favorite. Critics love this thing. They're all putting in their best of lists. Fans, like, regular music listeners, are just loving it. They're eating it up. This album really took the world by storm. Phoebe Bridgers kind of had a small cult following with her album Stranger in the Alps, which I never even listened to, but I've heard good things about. but I never listened to it until this thing came out, and then I went back and listened to that because someone on Instagram told me to listen to it. I did. Shout out. I'm not gonna say her name. Whatever, man. It's a great album. I don't listen to it very often. It is actually my least listened to album out of all of these, just because it's not fun to listen to. Besides the song Kyoto, which may be the best song of the year. No, it's not. It's not. I'll do best songs of 2020 as well, but that is a really amazing song. Kyoto is not to be missed. If you just listen to one song from the album, listen to that. Even though it isn't representative of the album as a whole, it's much more upbeat. It's easily the best song on the thing. Okay, this is the first pick on here, which is gonna turn some heads because for some reason the Tame Impala fan base and critics all said that this was the worst Tame Impala album. And I'm sitting here listening to this thing, and it's my favorite Tame Impala album. Like, Currents is a great album. I almost never listened to it. Lonerism is a great album. I almost never listened to it. And then this thing comes out, and I'm just loving it, like, so much. I think it's amazing. So, like, I'll say it's the most fun Tame Impala album that's just focused on just having banger tracks that get you moving, that get you grooving, that just sound and feel cool. You feel cool listening to this. It's just a great feel-good album, even if it does have some darker lyrics here and there. It's just a really, really, really great time and a really amazing album. Really underrated, I would say, as well. Have We Met by Destroyer. This is the first Destroyer album I ever heard. I listened to it because Pitchfork, super, super early in the year, either January or February, I feel like, Pitchfork gave this Best New Music. I'd never heard of Destroyer, listened to it, and I absolutely loved it. It blew me away. It was so original, so creative. The vocals are so interesting. And, it's not even my favorite Destroyer album. Like, I think they have better. Like Poison Season, I think is a masterpiece. Like I just you can check out my best of 2015 list. 2015 was the best year for music out of the 2010s, and that was one of my favorite albums of 2015. So that's saying a lot. That is an incredible album. You have to listen to it. It's so, so good. But this too is really great. If you like Destroyer, there's no way you're not gonna like this. It's just super cool, super original, great use of electronics, great lyrics, great singing, great album. Unfall by Chase Tremaine. Every time I do one of these videos, I have to include some album that no one's ever heard of, just for the heck of it. And that's what I did with this. Chase Tremaine is one of the staffers at Jesus Freak Hideout. It's like a music blog for like mainstream Christian music and really obscure Christian music. They do it all. It's all in there. And they do like reviews. They have a podcast. I personally emailed this guy and we've talked about movies and music before. And on his little email tag, it said, "Oh, listen to my new album." He didn't even personally say that to me. And I did. And it's just hit me on like a really personal level. Maybe because I feel like I sort of know the guy from listening to the podcast and stuff, and because it's so unheard of. But it meant a lot to me. Songs like Unfall in Love with a Bull, which is kind of a dumb title, but a great song, and Lonely Saints just hit a little deep, cut a little deep. It's a really great album. Speaking of Jesus Freak Hideout, the album Keeper of Days by John Gurra, I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, I'm sure. Guerrera, I don't know how to say his name. Was massively critically acclaimed. Everybody on the staff, all the staff on the site just loved this album. They said it was the best thing ever. And they weren't lying. This thing is fantastic. I don't know where this is going to go in my decade list, but I can totally imagine this growing on me because I haven't listened to it that much. I don't listen to Christian music that often, but this is Christian music at a higher level. And it's just a beautiful, fantastic album. Something so good, so amazing. And dude, it's so good. It's the song Citizen. Dang. I was tearing up in the car. I was listening to it yesterday, driving down a mountain in North Carolina. I was like crying, dude. This is such a good album. Dang. Speaking of tears while driving down the mountain in North Carolina, The song Dolores from Brave Faces Everyone came on. This Spanish Love Songs album, their second album, and it made me emotional, man. This is just, this album is really big for film. I mean, for the movie. I mean, for the music. I can't talk. The music critics on YouTube, Spectrum Pulse, gave this album a 10. ARTV said it was the best album of 2020, and he put it above Fetch the Bolt Cutters, which he gave a 5-star review. He rarely ever gives modern albums a 5-star review, so that's insane. That honestly could be his album of the decade. It could be Spectrum Pulse's album of the decade. It is a fantastic album. My only complaint is that the songs do, and this is a complaint with punk music in general, but the songs do kind of blend together because they all kind of are doing the same thing. And Spectrum Pulse did address that in his review, but he said it wasn't a problem for him. But the songwriting and the vocals and the music on this thing are so, so good, so powerful. You really just cannot miss this. It's amazing. Purple Moonlight Pages by Rap Ferreira. I might be saying the name wrong. Who used to be Milo, who used to be Scallops Hotel. After listening to this album, this is the first album I heard by Milo, by this artist who's gone by so many different names. I went back and listened to the other Milo stuff. I thought it was great. I love Toothpaste Suburb. That album is so good, so charming, so creative, so fun, so interesting. One of the best of 2014, in my opinion. But Purple Moonlight Pages, such a good album. It is a jazz rap album. I listened to it because Fantano gave it an 8. It's just so cool. The songs are so cool. There's a bunch of songs, and they're basically all great besides the last song, which Fantano said wasn't great, which I agree with. It's the worst song on the album. But it's a great album. I don't know why I like it so much. I can't explain with words why this album is above all these other amazing albums. But just personally, I've listened to this so much. I love it so much. It's really, really great. We Will Always Love You dropped like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, it came out super recently, and I've been listening to it non-stop. Non-stop. Literally just this. Like, I haven't been listening to other music. I'm only listening to We Will Always Love You. And the thing about this album, the reason it's not number 1, well, I think this is the best songs of the year. Interstellar Love, The Divine Chord, Overcome, Music Makes Me High. Blanking on the other songs I love from this thing. It's a bunch of songs. But the vibe of this album is just so emotional for me. And it's in, like with since I left you, it's impossible to explain how their music makes you feel the way it does. But this album just worked so well for me. Ignore Fantano's 5. Fantano's an idiot. This is a fantastic album. Please listen to it. Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Yeah. Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Like, if you've seen my other top 10 videos, my number 1 is always some album that somehow breaks the mold, that somehow does something that other albums didn't do that year, somehow stands out in a very significant way. And this one does, in that it's an album that feels extremely, extremely personal. Extremely personal, yet also so, like, relevant and so, like, relatable in the weirdest ways. Like, it's impossible. Like, as a white male who is 19 years old, I can draw things out of this album and get so much out of it. And it's like, I am nothing like Fiona Apple. We're not similar at all, but you can draw personal things from this album and relate it to your own life and your own experience. And you can learn so much and you feel like you really are walking in someone else's shoes when you listen to this album. And it does truly feel original. It really feels like Fiona took the singer-songwriter album and flipped it on its head and inverted it and twisted it inside out and made it her own thing. And that's why it's my album of the year. Even if it's not the album I've listened to the most, even if it's not the album I will in the upcoming years listen to the most, I probably won't come back to this that often. I just think it is objectively the best album of the year. So, whatever. 2020 was really cool for music because on one hand, it was a lot of the best albums of 2020 was already well-established artists proving that they're legendary. Like Fiona Apple's already super critically acclaimed, super well-established, been making music since the 90s, been loved since the 90s. Or, Run the Jewels, they've already made two other masterpieces, two other amazing albums. They're already the best, or one of the most critically acclaimed rap people in the world. Tame Impala, once again, very well established. Destroyer's been making music for a long time. And Milo, Rap Forever has been making music for a long time, not under the name Rap Forever. But then you also have these new talent. You had Chase Tremaine with Unfall. You had John Guerrera for Keeper of Days. You had Phoebe Bridgers expanding her sound with Punisher. You had Spanish Love Songs just blowing us away with their second album. People didn't even know about their first album. Like, it was so under the radar, and then this album comes out. Once again, with well-established artists, the Avalanches been wowing and amazing people since the year 2000, and they're still doing it now. I mean, this has been such a cool year for people who are already amazing, proving once again, showing the world how amazing they are, and for new talent that we can look forward to up in this upcoming decade. 2020 is a very, very exciting year for music. This is so cool. Thanks for watching the video. What were some of your favorites? What did I miss? What did I not mention? What am I sleeping on that I should know about, that I should talk about? Thank you for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.